Welcome students to the revision class of Nationalism in India. Ma'am, for the coming exams, the part 3 and part 4 of Nationalism are there. So today, let us go with the revision of part 3 of your lesson towards civil disobedience. Okay. Now, if we speak about the order of occurrence, then this is the order of occurrence in the lesson. And the first, we need to talk about the economic conditions in India in late 1920s. What happened in India in late 1920s? The agricultural prices went up and the farmers suffered a lot. They were unable to pay the high revenue demands of the government or the British colonial administration. And by 1930, the situations became more and more worst. Okay. After that, we have about Simon Commission. Now, why this Simon Commission was constituted actually? It was constituted to look into the constitutional matters and suggest any changes if required. Okay, and this was not welcomed by the people of the country. Why this was not welcomed? A commission which was made in order to suggest changes in India, it did not have any Indian member. It did not have a single member who is an Indian. So this was not welcomed. So when it came to India in 1928, then it was welcomed with slogan Simon Go Back. Okay. So now after that, we need to talk about Salt March. Ma, here see, in the Salt March actually it was on April 6th, 1930 that Gandhiji reached Dandi and he manufactured salt by boiling the sea water. So this day is considered to be the start of the civil disobedience movement. So before that, what happened? Before that, in March 1930, we have seen that Gandhiji has sent a letter to Lord Irwin, Viceroy Irwin, giving 11 demands, in which one of the demand was abolition of tax on salt. So, and he even stated that if the demands were not fulfilled, then agitation would be launched, okay, in a large scale. Now, Gandhiji, why did he choose salt as a powerful weapon here, ma? Because that was a product which was very much commonly used by each and every people of the country. There was no person in the country who is not using salt. Yes. So, on such a product, tax was levied by the government, by the British administration. So, Gandhiji has taken salt as a weapon and he started the Salt March. He walked from Sabarmati Ashram to Dandi along with 78 trusted volunteers. Yes, and they reached Dandi on April 6, 1930 and manufactured salt. So this day is considered to be the start of the civil disobedience movement. Ma, Salt March is very, very important for 3 marks as well as for the 5 marks. Okay, the entire Salt March is important. If it is given for 3 marks, then write according to the specifications. If it is for 5 marks, then you need to even mention that Gandhiji has sent a letter to Lord Irwin, Viceroy Irwin, stating 11 demands, in which abolition of tax on salt was one of the demand. Okay, then you can go with how the Salt March went on. Okay, ma'am. So this is very, very important. Now, I said now April 6th, 1930 is considered to be the start of the civil disobedience movement. And in the Salt March, here, how did the movement go? As the movement spread, foreign cloth was boycotted, liquor shop picketed, peasants refused to pay revenue and chowkidari taxes. Okay, village officials resigned, and in many places, forest people violated the forest laws, going into reserved forest to collect wood and graze cattle. Ma, this paragraph, page number 64, this paragraph, okay, is very important. What actually happened during the civil disobedience movement? So this paragraph is the answer for that question. Okay, ma? Now see here. After that, many leaders like Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan was arrested. Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, also called as Frontier Gandhi, like I have told you. And here see, Mahatma Gandhi once again decided to call off the movement and enter into a pact with Irwin on 5th March 1931. So I said na, civil disobedience movement was called off and Gandhiji entered into a pact with Irwin. Pact means an agreement with Irwin on 5th March 1931. This is called as the Gandhi-Irwin Pact. And he went and participated in the second roundtable conference, but that failed. The second roundtable conference failed. Okay, ma? Now see. Now, how the participants saw the movement. Now see here, second roundtable conference was in London, December 1931. After the failure of the second roundtable conference, civil disobedience movement was again restarted or relaunched in 1932. But the movement lost its momentum in 1934. So this is the order of occurrence for this lesson. Okay. Now let us see how the participants saw the movement. Here, if you get a direct question, how did different people of the society, different groups participate in the civil disobedience movement, then you have to write about all these 5 groups if it is a 5 marks question. If it is a 3 marks question, then you can name them and just give a 1-line description of what happened with them actually. And if he specifies, write about any 3 groups, then well and good. You can write about any 3 groups. Okay, ma? Now see, here who are the people we need to talk about in civil disobedience movement? Rich peasants, poor peasants, business class, industrial workers and women. Now first the rich peasants. Rich peasants means these are the rich farmers, ma. Now see here, they were very hard hit by the trade depression and falling prices, and they found it impossible to pay the government's revenue demand. For them, the fight for Swaraj was a struggle against high revenues. So what the rich peasants thought, that the fight for Swaraj was a struggle against the high revenues. Now coming to the poor peasants. Now these poor peasants, they were small tenants, ma. They were mostly small farmers and small tenants, and they also were unable to pay revenues to the landlords. Okay. Now see. Now they mostly stayed away from the civil disobedience movement, and they mostly favored the socialist or the communist groups in the country. And Congress also, it did not support the no rent campaign which was started by these poor peasants. So there was always a distance maintained between Congress and the poor peasants. Now coming to the business classes. Now these business class students, after the First World War, the merchants, Indian merchants and industrialists, they made huge profits and became powerful. They actually wanted protection against import of foreign goods and rupee sterling foreign exchange ratio. Okay, they also formed many associations under the leadership of Purushottam Das and G.D. Birla. Now here you will get a 1-mark question. Who were the founders of the Federation of the Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industries? FICCI. That is Purushottam Das, Thakur Das and G.D. Birla. That you have to remember, ma. Okay. Now see. They saw Swaraj as a time when colonial restrictions on business would no longer exist and trade and industry would flourish. So to this business class, what was Swaraj? All the colonial restrictions will not be there and their trade will flourish. So that was Swaraj for them. Now here we have again industrial workers. Ma, most of the industrial workers always stayed away from the civil disobedience movement. They did not participate except in some places like Nagpur. Okay. Now see here. The railway workers, they went on strike in 1930 and dock workers in 1932. In 1930, thousands of workers in the Chota Nagpur mines wore Gandhi caps and participated in the protest. Means the industrial workers, the percentage of participation of the industrial workers in civil disobedience movement was very, very less. And moreover, the Congress also, it did not want to add these industrial workers with the fear of losing the support of the business class. So this is about the industrial workers. And with the women. Women's participation in the civil disobedience movement was found in a large scale. They felt that it was their sacred duty to serve the country. But some or the other way, the Congress, it did not accept the women participation, and for many years, women were not given much prominence also, and they were not even given any responsible positions in the Congress party itself. So this is all about the different people and how they participated or what their idea was about Swaraj. Understood now? Here we have clearly seen that rich peasants, they had Swaraj to them was different. For the poor, for the business class, Swaraj was different. Yeah. So here you have different people having their own different interpretations about Swaraj. Okay, ma'am? Now when we speak about the limitations, we need to talk about two sections of the society. One is the untouchables and the Muslims. With respect to untouchables, as we have seen that Congress was completely occupied by the Sanatanis or the high caste Hindus. Okay. So the dominance of Sanatanis was found in Congress, and untouchables were always, they stayed away from Congress. But Gandhiji, he supported untouchables and he named them Harijans. And in order to show his support, he even cleaned the toilets, showing his concern towards the Bangis. Here see, he himself cleaned the toilets to dignify the work of the Bangi and persuaded the upper caste to change their heart and give up the sin of untouchability. Okay, now we have seen that these untouchables under the leadership of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, he organized the Depressed Classes Association in 1930. Very important, ma. Please underline. Okay, and they wanted separate electorates. I have clearly explained you what is separate electorates and all. And Gandhiji was against that separate electorates. And at last, Gandhiji's keeping on the word of Gandhiji, this proposal of separate electorate was put down, and the untouchables or the backward classes, they were given reserved seats. Okay, ma'am. And coming to the Muslims, always, as we have talked about earlier, Congress was completely filled with Sanatanis, and the Hindu-Muslim clashes, they always were maintained. Okay. All the efforts of the Congress and the Muslim League to reunite the Hindus and the Muslims were vain. They were all vain. Okay. And negotiations of the question of representation continued, but all the hope of resolving the issue at the all-party conference in 1928 disappeared when Mr. M.R. Jaikar of the Hindu Mahasabha strongly opposed efforts at compromise. So here, the Muslims, they were very much concerned about their position as minorities in the country. So they always, the Hindu-Muslim relations always were on the threshold only. They were always very sensitive. Okay, and this continued for long. This is about the towards civil disobedience movement, your third part of nationalism in India. Is that clear to you?